Several years ago, I read The Einstein Factor by Wen Winger. And in this book, he describes two ways to increase your IQ. The first is image streaming, which you probably have already heard of. It's a very simple process. All you do is close your eyes and then describe what you see. And you describe what you see as quickly as you can, as accurately as you can, with as much detail as you can, and you kind of chase the changing images with your description. And the images come from your unconscious, and your descriptions come from your conscious, so this increases the interface, the strength of the connection between your conscious and unconscious mind. And because you're using part of your brain to come up with spoken language and the other part of your brain to come up with visualizations inside your head, you're essentially using half of your brain to describe what's going on in the other half of your brain, and this will create connections between the two hemispheres. This will also significantly increase your ability to articulate ideas accurately. It will also improve your visualization skills, because if you can visualize clearly in your mind's eye, you can describe things very, very clearly, and this will make you a very, very attractive conversationalist. They've done a lot of experiments on sleep learning. The idea is very compelling to come up with some stuff you'd like to remember or know in your long-term memory and play it on a loop while you sleep and then wake up and poof, it's all in your brain. And they've done some studies, and this does work in some contexts. Way back when the Greeks were playing around with thought and logic and how the mind works and how thought works, they came up with the idea of the memory palace, a very powerful tool if you want to remember things, if you want to be able to easily recall things. And a memory palace is very, very simple. You construct a house or a palace in your mind's eye. And once the house or palace is complete, it's constructed, you can just go through and put stuff in rooms that you want to remember. And then later, when you need to remember these things, you just go into your room in your mind's eye and remember what you're supposed to remember. Poof, and it comes back out like that. I read this book a while back about intelligence, and the author had some very interesting takes on intelligence, particularly why a lot of people believe it's not possible to increase your intelligence. And he says there's a lot of mechanics as why this belief is so popular, but basically, whenever you do a study, whenever you need to prove something or disprove something, you need to do a study, and studies are very, very expensive, and studies need to go through kind of an academic filter. And so if you're paying money for a study, and that doesn't look like the study is going to come out the way you want it to, a lot of times they just stop funding for the study, because people that fund studies generally have some kind of ulterior motive as to what they want to do with the information, to promote their business somehow, or to promote their ideology somehow. And because academics they sit on top of the intellectual hierarchy, they've cornered the market on intelligence. And so they kind of subconsciously have a bias against the idea of everybody being able to become more intelligent. Because if everybody was able to become more intelligent, they would not be so secure in their hierarchical status, their hierarchical intellectual status. And so every time there's any kind of thought of a study that might prove that it is possible to improve your intelligence, it doesn't go through their subconscious bias, and they don't even do the study, or they can't get anybody to pay for the study. Another thing they talked about in the book is that even though we might have an individual upper limit on our intelligence, most everybody is significantly underperforming. Meaning we were born with intelligence, but then we go through the educational process, and the educational process hammers the intelligence out of us. Because the modern educational system is a sorting system, not a training system. And if you take a very intelligent person and put them through this sorting system, it's going to hammer out their intelligence. So it's probably true that maybe if we do have an upper limit on our intelligence, you can significantly increase your intelligence, maybe 10, 20, maybe 30 points. And the best way to do that is to remove the limiting beliefs. Remove the limiting beliefs that you have on your intelligence and install positive beliefs. To believe that you are intelligent, to believe that you are very creative, to believe that you are very, very extraordinary in your thinking powers. And you can combine this with any kind of techniques to improve your memory or to improve your intelligence. Another memory tool like the Memory Palace is the peg list. It's very, very simple. You can search online and find a memory peg list of 10 or 20 items, and you take maybe an hour and associate the items to the numbers on the list. And then when you need to remember something, you just take the unknown information and make an association to the thing on your peg list, and then think of the number, and the information you want to remember will pop right out. I did this once in front of a Dale Carnegie class that I was helping to teach, and the results were fantastic. Admittedly, I was a little bit nervous at first, but once I started spitting out the stuff I was supposed to remember so easily, they thought it was an amazing party trick, and that's when it dawned on me that having a cool memory is a fantastic party trick. If you can come up with a peg list and just practice putting things on your peg list and remembering them in front of other people, they will think that you are super, super intelligent, particularly if you take people's names and you associate people's names with the items on your peg list. Because if you can remember people's names, if you can remember the names of everybody in a group, when most people can't even remember one name, you will be perceived as a social superhero, a social super genius. The way sleep learning works the best is if you study some material just a little bit to get yourself familiar with the material before you go to sleep. And then when you listen to the sleep learning tape on autopilot, on repeat, you'll wake up and the memory will be in your long-term memory. And this is a way to significantly improve how quickly you can move stuff from unknown information to short-term memory into long-term memory. It's a fantastic way to accelerate your learning. It's a fantastic way to accelerate how much stuff you know to be true. The other form to increase your IQ, according to the book The Einstein Factor, is to swim underwater. Because you're exercising underwater, which means your body needs oxygen, but you're not breathing. So the body responds by maximizing the use of the oxygen that's already in your blood. And if you do this consistently, your blood vessels will start to increase in their diameter. So you're getting more oxygen per heart pump because you're getting more blood flow. And then later on, if you're using your brain during normal operating conditions when you're not underwater, your brain will be turbocharged because you're getting more oxygen to your brain. It'll be having like a forced air induction on your engine of the brain, and you'll be able to think a lot more clearly, think a lot more creatively, think a lot more powerfully. And because your brain is your most valuable asset, it does make a little bit of sense to do something every day. To do something every day to improve your brain power. To do something every day to improve your intelligence. To increase your intelligence. To increase your IQ. To increase your memory. Because this will have all kinds of secondary and tertiary effects in your life that you can't possibly predict. You'll be able to much more creatively imagine a much better future and make that future come true. All by practicing brain building exercises on a daily basis to improve your greatest asset every day. If you'd like to learn how to do this, check out the links below. Please leave a comment. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.